All right, I'm gonna put up one more of these, but and let's see how I'm just gonna see how this feels that I'm doing this because I mean, being that this is all private, I mean, this is my subjective experience, and there's not my whole. I mean, it can't be. It's so what, but we'll just see how I feel about this after I put it up. But the two other things I want to address that because this is why I'm interested in this what other people are saying that sounds interesting. First of all, this issue of staging bizarre events. Yeah. I was run through a series of manufactured fucking coincidences that I said nah. Is it? I mean, no, I did get scared. I mean, I did. I'm not gonna say I wasn't scared initially, but I'm saying I still I left town and I went to a place that I knew was like a healing place. It's just kind of a halfway house in the woods for trauma victims, and I went there and I was at that point, I was so hysterical, and they were very kind. They said, look, here's the thing, and they said, look, we know something's happening. They said, look, we something's happening. They said, first of all, they said, one, we don't think you're delusional, and they said, two, like, there's a hypomanic energy running through you all the time. Your level of distrust is incredible, and we're not sure what happened that caused this. Something happened, but because this is coming out of somewhere, but we're not sure really what this is. And but while I was there, the, the, this whole thing, they said we want you to know that we've been getting calls, and from this doctor, and from your family as well, and they're demanding something that we're not saying is necessary, which is that they want to have you go through a series of they want you psychologically evaluated uh, and to determine whether or not you're sane. And they said, we don't think that's necessary, and you're a grown man. You don't have to submit to that, but we do want to make you aware that they're asking for that, um, because that you should be made aware of, that someone's asking you to do that. Now, here's the thing, to clear my name and everything, I did ultimately, in another context, ask for it in a situation. I wanted a battery of psychological testing done so that it would be on record if it ever came up legally. And I came up with a clean bill of health for anything like paranoia or anything. But I was very frightened by that. And when I returned the stuff, I continued and continued. But the thing is, every attempt I made to say, nah, I don't want to be paranoid, I don't want to be imaginative, they finally they pushed it so far that it was like, as far as staging events and manufacturing coincidences and I mean, they pushed it to a degree that I couldn't. And part of it is, and it does talk about this online, and that's why I want to address this. They really didn't care if it was obvious to me what they were doing. I mean, they didn't care. They just did not care. If I knew what they were doing, who would I tell? I mean, I mean that was really basically their attitude. Um, and then using the most incredible things at one time the doctor, he said, well, he said, well, you see what happened is, he said, he told them, and that's not what happened. And he said, but he always say, you remember that, don't you? You remember that, don't you? Like that was that exact phrase after the time he would say it simply was false. Oh, you remember that, don't you? I mean, those are really threats. Now the question is, well, Jesus Christ, why don't you do something? And here's another thing about this, and then all this issue about energy and everything. And now I know there's an incredible amount of stuff that is going on, and I guess I don't know what it is, but people are saying about what they call shapeshifters, and that people shift into reptiles or whatever. Now, once again, I assume that to be a metaphor for something that I've dealt with. Then again, after what's happened, I don't know. But let me tell you something, okay? There are individuals in this world that can shift their personality in ways that are very startling. They have an unintegrated series of personalities that are not the same person, and can switch in seconds and are completely different. And they're all apparent, and they are, and unlike what we would call a person with a mental illness because switches out of because it's from something else. These are people who can do this apparently intentionally, and they can do it whenever they want. So a person who is very threatening to you, who is obviously very sophisticated in a variety of ways, if questioned about anything, they have some kind of alter that appears incredibly clumsy, absent-minded, foolish, doesn't know. They have a number of kind of alter personalities that are intentional. But the point is that as far as being able to shift energy, here's the thing. First of all, I don't know how a person is able to shift their personality like that, at will, like that. But second of all, if you do attempt to threaten them, okay, they will switch personalities, but they are also able to shift the fucking energy in the room in a way that's so noticeable. I mean, it's so noticeable that a whole shift just came in to the energy in the room. That these are people who have some kind of very sophisticated ability to alter both their personality and the energy that's taking place between them and the other person. That's a kind of shape-shifting. That people could appear at different times, different in private. I mean, that they can be that threatening and then just snap out of it at a different time whenever they want. That was very frightening to me, but there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it, but also what was interesting is because I had seen these switches, I made some interesting errors. They were not errors, but someone did want to get to the bottom of it at one of these trauma rehab things, and they did call this doctor, and he told me the lie he told me that one of these staged events was real. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes, but in case I had any doubt, the lie he told was, I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, the fact that he would even, see, a lot of this is that I was paying attention to things that they didn't know I caught. And when it was asked to them, bang, they had an answer to cover it. That is to say, they did not say, oh, no, I have no idea what that is. I mean, that's crazy. No. When asked about something that had happened, 2 years earlier, that if it really wasn't a thing, they wouldn't have remembered it. Had a story. Oh no, what happened there is that, you see. He misunderstood what just happened. Now I pointed that out to them, and they said, yeah, something, I'll tell you though, this guy, and I talked to him, and gosh, he certainly really doesn't sound too witted. I mean, isn't it possible this guy's just kind of clumsy? I mean, and I wrote, right, she's talking to that one. Right, there's more than one of them, and there's one of them that's like a country bumpkin or something, right? And okay, right, they switch when they're questioned. But the thing is, when he was sort of alerted that I caught all this stuff, one of the things they started doing was asking me constantly, you haven't wanted to commit suicide lately, have you? I was very, stop asking me that. I said, do you want to commit suicide? They asked me constantly all of a sudden. And after the relationship was over, the guy continued to contact me, and what he asked me is, do you need any pills? He knew he was dealing with some of that history of addiction and might take him up on that, and that was how he kept me in it, because how'd you stay in it that long as the shit that man was doing to you? Because he'd give me any pill I wanted, that's why. Any antidepressant, any could just switch in and out of things. And I was using those pills to get through trauma, to do this, to not abuse substances. I've been sober for a long time. He knew he had someone that he could call up out of nowhere and say, do you need any pills? But he would say, and do you want to commit suicide? Okay, and this started the minute I started saying I noticed this. When it particularly got going, and see, I didn't realize this, but he had a colleague. That colleague and he had been working with, that's a video for another time. But that colleague was, I guess, treating my elderly father, or he was meeting with my father or something. And I wrote him a letter and said, look, I'm aware that you treat my father. I don't know if you know my father's ill and what's happening there. I said, and I said, listen, but what's taking place in my life, I said, this is some kind of stalking. I said, I'm just going to come out and use this word. Like, I'm not telling my doctor I'm writing you this letter. This is really some kind of stalking, and I don't know where it's coming from, but like, I want to just stop. And guess what happened right after that? I thought that letter might bring something to the surface, like, something. Right after that, it seemed like no one got that letter or anything. And the doctor said to me that, did I want, did I want to take this different medication he had instead of what I was taking, which was kind of like a stimulant medication, like an ADD thing. I said, oh, well, geez, I'm just starting at the university. I don't know if I want to switch, but he said, no, dude, this you'll like better. You'll like this a lot better. And what he gave me a prescription for something. He said, take this, you're going to like it a lot better. And he said, now listen, I'll be out of town now, so if you have a problem with this, you just call, there'll be a backup here. And I said, wait a minute, I don't know if this is a good idea for you to go out of town and all this stuff. No, take this. Well, listen, whatever that pill was, man, I was in a fucking stupor for days. That was not, I don't know, whatever it wasn't what I was taking, okay? But whatever it was, I was in some kind of fucking black hole, and I couldn't really think clearly. And this started a fucking, I experienced it, but that's what they did to me when I fucking wrote the letter about the stalking. And he also tried to claim later that if I did one time, he used a number of things that are very hard to, I mean, if someone has a story to tell like this, one of the things he was doing is he was giving me a stimulant medication. Well, he said, well, these make people paranoid. And the answer is, well, one, if it's helping you concentrate, it's not making anyone paranoid, but also, like, I don't care if you take the whole bottle, okay? Things you're seeing with your own eyes. I mean, but the fact that he had set it up where he could say that I had been taking a stimulant medication, so, well, you can't believe anything he says. He's been taking a stimulant, and that was, I didn't have any credibility. Of course I didn't. A person who's got something to report that does sound a bit paranoid, he had me on a stimulant medication. So that basically made it impossible for me to ever, tell anyone about that, because they'd say, well, man, those medications can make you, paranoid. Now, of course, they can't make you see, not that way, but it seemed like that they had it so down pat where they had someone that just would have no credibility. And one of the wonderful things I did do, though, I've been able to work with trauma people who help me with something that I always want to bring to the people who are making these kind of videos, but I don't know if it's how it'll sound. I don't want to offend them. But what they work with me on is they said the most important thing for your safety, if you're going to talk to an attorney, if you're going to talk to someone else, is that no matter how frightened you are, we have to really rid you of any sign that is what they call diagnostic. That is to say, okay, like, you have a credibility problem because of this, and you got to know that. And I see a lot of these videos of there are people who I think they want to share a message, but people do write them and say, you look crazy, Now look, I of course look crazy too, but the point is I've worked very hard to make sure that I'm conscious of the fact that I have a bunch of shit to tell, and if in order to share it, I just can't share it in a way that might appear to be, as they say, diagnostic. And I thought that was a really kind thing to say, and several of these EMDR counselors who've helped me, and they know that the counseling I've got that really helps are people who know about the brain and nervous system, and people who are in what's called the recovery movement. And the recovery movement is an interesting phenomenon because they had warned me when I first got some treatment. They said, look, this movement has opponents. I said, no, it doesn't. What do you mean opponents? You don't have opponents. They said, no, listen to me very carefully. They said, look, since the 60s, look, we made discoveries about the brain and nervous system, about trauma, about treating people from different kinds of abuse. They're opponents of this. And I said, I don't believe it. What I found out is, there really are opponents. And I finally got to another situation where I did see abuse being covered up much more overtly than it was with me. much more overtly, and I'll talk about that in some other videos. I've gotten basically a tour of this whole nightmare, and survived it. But when I finally went back to get proper treatment, I said, okay, it does have a point. Now what's the story? And they told me about the False Memory Institute, and they told me about all the funding that's gone into discrediting people who've had abuse in their histories and discredit. And it was just amazing. And they said, look, like if you want to be able to ever, one, be safe. One, you're gonna have to get an attorney, but they said two, you're gonna have to make sure that you're fully